morning everyone! Today I have decided to reattempt making a router sled. I would love to try using larger slabs of wood, however, due to the fact that I do not have a reliable or cheap drum sander rental in the area I live in, I had no choice but to simply make a router sled for myself. Previously I failed because I used thinner and worse quality of plywood. This time I obtained very high quality of plywood. I have two sheets that are 2 by 4 feet with a thickness of 3 1/4 of an inch, and it is 11 ply birch plywood. Pretty much good cabinet quality plywood, and it's not going to warp like my other one. I started the whole thing off first by making very rough cuts of plywood since the whole 2 by 4 foot piece I had was very unwieldy. Following that, I made the fence for the base, which I plan to make 3 1/4 of an inch tall and 4 feet long. This should allow me to mill any slab that is 2 1/4 inch thick, which is good and exactly what I want. I know I can go up to 2.5 inches, but you know, clearance and all that. Looking back on it, I should have stuck to 3 inches of height instead. Once I was done with fence, I decided to rip another piece that's for the sled. I made it as wide as my router base, and then I made a fence for my base, for the sled itself, and that was just 2 sticks that were 1.5 inches tall. Following that, I made sure that all parts of the sled would be 26 inches long. My base was going to be 25.5 inches long, so 26 inches would be perfect, giving me half an inch of wiggle room. I didn't want to hug the fence of the base too tightly. Now that the pieces were cut, it was time to assemble everything. First, I put heavy pieces of wood on top, which is highly unnecessary, but I wanted to make sure that the whole thing stays flat. And yes, it is stupid to do so, and yes, I agree with you. I don't know why I did this. So anyways, I took the fences that I cut and I stuck them to the end of the base. I started by doing one side at a time. The reason why you see me using clamps just to clamp the fence but not clamp the fence to the base itself is because I wanted to make sure that the base stays flat with the fence. So I was using those clamps that I clamped to the fence as a measuring stick to make sure I line up everything properly. Once I finished one side, I did the exactly same thing on the other side. I let each side dry for 2 days just because I wanted to make sure that everything bonds as well as possible. Once base was ready, I did the exact same thing with the sled, only this time I wasn't overly concerned about fences being perfectly level. So even though I did use the whole clamp thing there, it served absolutely no purpose whatsoever, and I didn't bother checking to make sure they were level. One of the things I did, I also made sure to wipe off any excess glue that got squeezed out, since if it was too dry, that would make the sled slide unevenly, or router to slide unevenly on a sled itself. As the very last step, I traced the lines for the router opening with my pen, then used the ruler to make sure it is perfectly straight, drilled the hole on opposite corners and proceeded to cut it out. And thanks to those holes, I could easily put the jigsaw in and cut everything perfectly. The cutout piece then I cut into 2 smaller pieces to be used to hold the sled onto the base. First, I held the piece with my hand just long enough for it to stick on its own, then I used clamps to apply pressure. And that's it! Sled was ready! Not to mention, it worked perfectly! The video of what I do here will be coming up in 2 weeks, so stay tuned. Overall, I'm very happy with how this turned out. I can pretty much mill anything from 2 1/4 inches all the way down to 1 inch. If you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it, please consider subscribing. I try to release videos once every week. If you do have any comments on how to improve or any questions, those are very welcome too. If you want to just say hi, that's also welcome. I'll say hi back. If anything, do consider subscribing just to see what I'm making on my sled here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye bye!